There are men who don't say, "I love you," but show it. Men who don't dare to confess what they feel, yet their actions betray them. Why does this happen? Why can someone be deeply in love and not even be aware of it? To answer this, we have to go beyond the obvious, and that's where Carl Jung comes in. Jung taught that most of our emotional decisions don't come from rational thought, but from the unconscious. This deep part of the mind stores traumas, desires, fears, and archetypes, and it guides many of our behaviors without us realizing it. When a man falls in love, he doesn't always recognize it right away, especially if he was raised to repress his emotions, to show strength, or to avoid vulnerability. In that context, the unconscious acts first, through gestures, silences, contradictions, or actions that seem random, but are actually signs of something much deeper. How does this hidden love manifest? Jung spoke of the anima as the feminine archetype within the male unconscious. It is the emotional, intuitive, empathetic side. When a man falls in love, his anima awakens, and this inner energy begins to connect with the woman he loves, even if he isn't consciously aware of it. This process generates a series of behaviors that, if you pay attention, you can notice. You don't need him to say it in words. The body speaks, the soul shouts. We invite you to observe the following. When a man is in love and doesn't know it, he does things that seem small, but say a lot. Actions that break his routine, that throw him off balance, even make him uncomfortable. And all for one reason: you are in his emotional unconscious. In Jungian psychology, we project onto others what we lack, what attracts us, or what wounds us. A man in love often projects onto a woman the qualities he admires, idealizes, or longs for in himself. He watches you, listens to you, follows you, and often doesn't even know why he cares so much. It's not rational, it's not logical, it's deep. He might even get scared by what he feels. He might pull away, get confused, behave contradictorily. But if you learn to see these signs, you'll realize that his soul has already drawn close to you, even if his mind is still resisting. Many men were raised to be strong, to not show feelings, to not fall in love too deeply. This creates emotional blocks that act like filters. Love, then, doesn't come in as a direct confession, but as an underground current expressed through involuntary actions. And here's what's interesting. Those actions speak louder than words. A message at an odd hour, a lingering glance, a memory he mentions without you bringing it up, a sudden need to help you, to protect you, or even to argue with you. All of this is part of love's unconscious language. Carl Jung said that a person becomes whole when they acknowledge all their parts, the rational, the emotional, the instinctive. A man who begins to fall in love without knowing it is in that process. His unconscious already knows, his body already feels it, but his mind still needs time to accept it. What you can do is not to force anything, but to observe, read between the lines, listen beyond the spoken, because that is where the soul's truth lives. In the next part, we'll delve into the first concrete sign, when he pulls away but can't let you go. A very common pattern in men who are deeply in love but emotionally blocked. One of the most confusing and yet revealing signs that a man is unknowingly in love is this emotional back and forth. He pulls away but then comes back. He says he needs space but can't help reaching out to you. He tries to set boundaries but breaks his own rules when he feels you might truly walk away. This pattern isn't random, nor is it necessarily manipulation. Often it's a clear reflection of an internal struggle between the unconscious and the rational mind. When a man feels something deep but hasn't yet consciously recognized it, a duality appears that fragments him. On one hand, his unconscious, connected to his anima, his emotional side, pulls him toward you, moves him, attracts him, makes him think of you at unexpected moments. On the other hand, his rational ego tries to maintain control, to protect himself from pain, to avoid surrendering to what he perceives as a threat to his stability. This internal conflict creates erratic behavior. One day he seems fully available, tender, present, And the next, distant, cold, evasive. But if you look closely, he can't maintain that distance for long. What if he's not playing with you? Many women interpret this as a manipulation game. And yes, some men play games, but others are simply confused, scared, or emotionally immature, and they don't know how to deal with what they're feeling. Carl Jung said, "What is not made conscious will manifest in your life as fate." In this case, what he doesn't recognize as love ends up expressing itself through contradictory behaviors that affect the relationship, without him knowing why. That's why he leaves but can't let go. That's why he stays silent but later writes to you. That's why he avoids commitment but gets jealous if he sees you with someone else. Why is it so hard for him to stay? There's an idea that deeply scares many men, losing themselves in a woman, not because they don't want to love, but because they never learned how to stay true to themselves while loving. That fear leads them to create distance in order to reaffirm their autonomy. But when the love is real, the unconscious doesn't cooperate with that escape. It keeps drawing him back, keeps connecting him emotionally, even when he tries to shut down the bond. Jung explained that the soul seeks wholeness, and love is one of the most powerful ways that happens. When he pushes you away, many times it's because he feels he's giving you more power than he understands, and that makes him feel vulnerable. What can you do? First, don't take it personally. Many times the problem isn't you, but his relationship with his own emotions. Second, don't try to convince him. His rational side will only defend itself more if it feels pressured. And third, observe if every distancing is followed by a return, if every silence leads to a reappearance filled with hidden emotion. If it's clear that he can't fully let go, then there's something deeper than superficial attraction. There's an active unconscious connection. This isn't about justifying, it's about understanding and deciding if you're willing to be with someone who is still learning how to love. In the next part, we'll explore the second sign. He protects you even when you don't ask him to. One of the purest and most primal ways that unrecognized love manifests. When a man is in love, even if he hasn't realized it yet, there is a force within him that instinctively activates the impulse to protect you. Not necessarily with grand heroic gestures, but through small, everyday actions. Letting you know if you're running late, offering you his jacket without you asking, watching your surroundings when you're out together, caring for you even when you think it's unnecessary. And often he won't even understand why he's doing it. Carl Jung spoke of archetypes, universal patterns that live in the collective unconscious. One of them is the guardian, the protector. This archetype isn't just physical, it's not about muscular strength, but symbolic, to protect what one deeply values. When a man begins to connect with his anima, the feminine archetype within his psyche, this guardian also awakens. And if you are the figure who connects with his emotional side, it's very likely that his natural instinct will be to care for you, to protect you, to anticipate your needs, and he will do this without you having to demand or ask for anything. How does this unconscious protection manifest? It's not always obvious. Sometimes it shows up as concern, like, "I'm just texting to see if you got home safe," or "I don't like you going out alone at night in that area." It may seem exaggerated or unnecessary, but it's his unconscious speaking. It's the reflection of an emotional bond he still can't put into words. Other times, this protection comes as a silent gesture. He goes with you even when he doesn't feel like it, just so you don't go alone. He changes plans for you without even presenting it as a sacrifice. He stays alert if someone makes you uncomfortable or hurts your feelings. He reacts emotionally if he senses you've been wounded. These kinds of actions reveal a deep connection. Your well-being matters to him more than he dares to admit. Jungian psychology tells us that many times we act from a part of ourselves we don't yet understand. In the case of love, this is especially evident. You may feel a strong need to care for, protect, or be present for someone without a logical explanation. When he acts as your refuge, as your emotional and physical safety, even without a formal relationship or clear declarations of love, it's his unconscious guiding him. And the most powerful part of this is that the protection doesn't come from duty, but from genuine desire. That said, it's important to draw a clear distinction. Protecting is not controlling. If the gesture comes with excessive jealousy, demands, distrust, or conditions that restrict your freedom, then we're no longer talking about unconscious love. We're talking about emotional control disguised as care. True love doesn't limit, it supports, shelters, and strengthens. And a man who loves you, even if he hasn't said it yet, will act from that place, not because he thinks he should, but because his soul already sees you as something he wants to keep safe and close. In Jung's writings, the anima acts as a bridge between a man's emotional world and his rational one. If you awaken that bridge in him, if his psyche associates you with that archetypal feminine energy, then he will unconsciously see you as someone to protect, respect, and care for. And even if he never says, "I love you," his way of showing it will be woven into his actions, in silences filled with presence, in his need for you to be okay, even if he's breaking inside. In the next part, we'll address the third sign. He remembers things about you that even you forget, a key clue that, without realizing it, he's already carrying you deep within. One of the deepest and most overlooked signs that a man is in love without knowing it is his ability to remember things you yourself have forgotten. Small facts, phrases, gestures, situations, details that seem unimportant to you but that stuck with him. And do you know why? Because when the soul connects, the mind retains without effort. In Carl Jung's psychology, the unconscious doesn't only store trauma or repressed desires, it also holds emotional connections, and those connections often manifest in the form of memories, but not just any memories, the ones that touch the soul. When a man remembers things about you, your grandmother's name, how you take your coffee, a song you mentioned just once, it's not because he has an extraordinary memory. It's because everything that comes from you passes through a special filter in his psyche, one that gives priority to what truly matters. He doesn't need to try or write it down. You're already anchored in his inner world, even if he hasn't realized it yet. What kind of details are signs? Pay attention to this. He remembers the exact date when you spoke about something painful. He brings up a phrase you said weeks ago as if it were recent. He knows what perfume you use, even if you never told him. He notices changes in how you speak, dress, or look. He shows interest in people or situations you only mentioned once. None of this is random. It's a sign that he has been emotionally present, even in moments when he seemed distracted. His unconscious is fully connected to you. And the most striking part, often he doesn't even know why he remembers everything. He just knows that he does. Jung spoke about the importance of emotions as anchors for the soul. What touches us emotionally becomes engraved more deeply than what we simply think. When you touch something in him, a wound, a nostalgia, a hope, it becomes an emotional mark. And from there, everything related to you becomes meaningful to him, even if he can't explain why. That's why, when a man is unknowingly in love, his emotional radar starts registering everything about you, as if some part of him already knows you are part of his story. How do you remember that? A revealing question. If you ever ask him, and he replies, "I don't know, I just remembered," pay attention. His unconscious has already done the work. He already carries you inside. What's most fascinating is that while his rational side struggles with fear, ego, or confusion, his unconscious keeps creating a story with you. And one way to know this is when he remembers things about you, even more than you do yourself. Carl Jung said the soul follows a different timeline than the mind. The soul feels, connects, remembers, while the mind seeks control, logic, and security. So don't be confused if he seems cold at times but then remembers exactly how you felt on that gloomy day. Don't assume he doesn't care if he doesn't say, "I miss you," but shows up with that book you mentioned just once. Don't underestimate the memory of the heart. The soul doesn't forget what truly touches its core. In the next part, we'll analyze the fourth sign. He gets nervous when you're around but doesn't know why. Body language is the soul's confession. There's something the body cannot hide, even when the mind hasn't yet processed its feelings, body language. And if a man is in love, even if he hasn't admitted it yet, his body will speak for him. In fact, it will speak a lot. One of the most authentic signs is this. When you're near, he changes, he gets nervous, looks at you too much, or avoids your gaze entirely. He touches his face, crosses and uncrosses his arms, laughs at things that aren't that funny, talks too fast, or suddenly goes silent. His whole system is shaken even if he can't explain why. Why does the body react like this? Because the body responds to the unconscious. Carl Jung said that repressed or unrecognized psychic energy manifests through physical behavior. In other words, what you cannot say, you express through gestures, movements, tensions. When a man hasn't accepted that he feels something strong for you, but his soul already knows, his body gets caught between two impulses, to approach and to flee. And that creates anxiety, awkwardness, discomfort. Not with you, but with what he himself feels. And many times, a man in this situation doesn't understand why he feels weird around you, why he tenses up when you come close, why he becomes more serious or overly playful. It's not a strategy. It's the ego's involuntary defense against an emotion he cannot yet process. Remember, real love involves vulnerability, and if he has learned to protect himself from pain, love disarms him. That's why when you're near, there is an emotional shock. His heart beats faster, even if he doesn't say so. He becomes more attentive or more uneasy. He loses control of his usual reactions, makes clumsy comments, contradicts himself, exposes himself. And all of this happens because his soul is pushing him towards something that his mind is still afraid to accept. You can notice things he himself doesn't. His tone of voice changes around you. He subconsciously fixes his appearance when he sees you. He becomes more serious or more hyperactive. He tries to fill silences or disappears into them. He shows small signs of physical restlessness, moving his fingers, touching his neck, looking down. It's not fear of you. It's fear of what you make him feel. Jung spoke about the shadow, that part of us which holds what is unaccepted, repressed, and unknown. In many men, the capacity to love lies in the shadow because they've learned that feeling deeply is dangerous, unmanly, or a threat to their stability. When a woman awakens that dormant part, the man doesn't know how to react, and his body gives him away. His soul is already awake, even if he's still trying to stay asleep. That's why he gets nervous. Not out of insecurity, but because of depth. Not because he doesn't like you, but because you already matter too much. In the next part, we'll explore the sixth and final sign. He gets jealous, but won't admit it. An unconscious reaction that reveals what his ego denies. Jealousy reveals something before words do. The desire for emotional exclusivity. And when a man is in love, even if he isn't aware of it or refuses to accept it, his body, his gestures, and his silences reveal something his words never do. He wants you to be his. We're not talking about toxic, possessive, or aggressive jealousy. We're talking about that sudden, involuntary, almost childlike reaction that appears when another man gives you attention or when you give it to someone else. And it's the kind of jealousy that isn't spoken but is felt in the air. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious reveals what the conscious mind is too afraid to face. When a man feels jealousy but doesn't admit it, to you or to himself, he is showing that a part of his soul has already chosen you, even if his mind is still in denial. And in that internal struggle, the result is always visible. He suddenly becomes cold, changes his expression for no apparent reason, makes sarcastic jokes about the situation, pulls away and then comes back, asks you indirect questions in a casual tone. What's happening is not superficial. You're touching a very intimate part of his psyche. When a man doesn't accept that he's in love, he builds internal defenses to justify what he feels. I don't care. She's just a friend. She can do what she wants. But if you get close to someone else, if someone else makes you laugh, if someone else shows interest in you, that mental barrier begins to crack. And what emerges is the reflection of desire. He doesn't want to lose you, even if he doesn't know why. Jung spoke of how the ego creates a mask, the persona, to help us stay in control. But the soul doesn't wear masks. The soul reacts from truth. And the truth is that jealousy, when it is brief, controlled, and not manipulative, shows a real emotional connection. How to recognize these silent jealousies? Watch for this. He suddenly takes interest in your past relationships. He interrupts when you talk about another man. He changes the subject if you speak admiringly about someone else. He makes passive-aggressive remarks disguised as jokes. He becomes distant right after such a moment. These are clumsy but deeply revealing ways of saying, "I don't know why, but it hurts to imagine you with someone else." And if you think about it, that's one of the purest forms of unconscious love. He desires you, but doesn't yet know how to own it. Many men feel jealous not because they think you belong to them, but because they fear someone else might see you before they're ready to admit they do. The fear of losing you arises even before having you, and in that fear lies the depth of what he feels, even if he doesn't name it. Don't take it as proof of control, but as an emotional message. Your presence already matters to me, even if I don't know what to do with that yet. Carl Jung said that what is essential always begins in the unconscious. And if this man hasn't said he loves you, but protects you without thinking, remembers everything about you, gets nervous around you, and becomes jealous without admitting it, then his soul has already decided he's in love. His mind just hasn't caught up with that inner truth yet. Trust what you see beyond words, because often the real "I love you" has already been said, even if it hasn't yet been heard.